Hello everyone, Shannon Flummerfeld here for Flip Schools. Welcome to the Understanding Instruction series, and this short video is one in a series of 5, so I hope you'll take the time to listen to the full series. This one is designed for building administrators, and I just want to talk to you briefly about heightening your awareness in terms of finding value and waste in instruction. We've talked about in some of these other videos here who our stakeholders are of instruction, and we talked about, of course, students are the #1 stakeholder of instruction. Sometimes things get a little skewed when we find that we are working with stakeholders of instruction that maybe don't match our mission as well as they should. And so what we want to do is really see what we can do about allocating our focus, our resources, our time and effort on creating value for who our key stakeholders of instruction are. And on the other hand, also being able to eliminate things that are wasteful that are within our auspice to do so. So when we talk about value and waste, they are obviously counterpoints and dichotomous views. And so what we would want to do is understand what value is. And the way that value is understood is from the perspective of whoever the key stakeholder is. And so we would want to understand that value is any part of instructional delivery, whether it's the curriculum that your building uses for reading or math, if it's the standards, if you're using Common Core state standards or some other set of standards such as those for rigor and relevance, how you're assessing the culture of learning in your building, some of the policies that you might have, and so on. Anything that is a part of that instructional delivery package that is seen by those key stakeholders. In this case, we'll talk about students as the key stakeholder. So if the students see it as worthwhile in their learning, then in fact, that is your definition of value. So this may seem a little bit radical because sometimes we have a decoupling here where we talk about students being our key stakeholders, yet the value that we deliver is not necessarily to them. It may be to another stakeholder, such as a board of education or a government, state or federal government, or maybe another community group that's putting some pressure on us. So what we want to do here is make sure that we have an understanding of what value is, and that if we're moving into the flipped school and the flipped classroom model, that we run the question of value and waste through the idea of flipping, because if we're trying to serve our key stakeholders, the way we serve them is by delivering value. What is value? Whatever they see as worthwhile in their learning. Okay? Now, I know there's a lot that we do in our educational system that actually disenfranchises and lacks empowerment thinking and methodology towards fostering the idea that students actually are key stakeholders and that they are capable of figuring out what's worthwhile in their learning. We oftentimes don't develop that in students as much as possible. But I'm really talking here about the general idea that we need to actually move in this direction in order for education to become meaningful for students. So when they're identified as key stakeholders and we are looking at what they would see as worthwhile in their learning, then we're creating value for them. So for instance, if we were to take a look at students as our key stakeholders, and we would say, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to require teachers in our building to collaborate in lesson planning so that they're able to identify who are the strongest subject area experts and have those people create screencast lectures so that students are listening to the highest level of expertise in the building that's possible in a subject area. Now, you begin to say, is that a value add for students When students see that as worthwhile in their learning, to be able to listen to the strongest subject area experts on faculty, and you probably say, yeah, if that's going to be a part of instructional delivery, a part of the curriculum planning, and so on, then yes, absolutely, that's a value add. So let's go and take a look at something called waste, which is the counterpoint to value. And what we would say about waste is, first of all, when we talk about waste, and even when I'm talking about value, I'm referring to waste and value within your auspice, things that you can do something about. There are a lot of forms of waste that you encounter as a building administrator. You can't do anything about some of those because they come from a decision maker or an authority that is beyond the scope of what you can engage in overriding. But for those things that you do have control over as a building administrator, then you do have the opportunity to exercise the question about what is value and what is waste in instructional delivery. So let's again take a look at the question of what is waste. So you could say waste is any part of instructional delivery. Again, if it's the curriculum, the standards, the assessment, the actual delivery of instruction, the culture, policies, the technology, whatever part of instructional delivery happens that is seen by students or whoever the key stakeholders are as not worthwhile for their learning. Okay, so then that's what we would call waste. And again, this is couched within the understanding that whatever is within your auspice to make decisions and have control over. So for instance, let's say that we say, okay, you know what? Students are the key stakeholders we're looking at here in instructional delivery. And if I were to ask a student, is it worthwhile for me to require teachers to individually submit weekly lesson plans to me as a building administrator? You'd ask a student that question, and, for many students, they would probably say no. I mean, all teachers are doing is writing down what they do or plan to do and submitting it. There's no collaboration, there's no understanding of, who does things well, who doesn't do things well, and putting those in the learning experience of a student. So perhaps this example could be considered waste by students. At any rate, it doesn't matter, what my opinion or your opinion about value and waste is. What matters is who are those key stakeholders of instruction, what is it that they would see as value and waste, and from there you go ahead and drive your decisions. These two examples here, may not apply at all to your particular situation. At any rate, there's a lot that can be done with understanding value and waste and trying to understand instruction from this perspective. So please listen to the videos in this series. I hope you enjoy them. And listen, if you need more information, you can go to the Flip Institute website at theflipinstitute.com. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video.